Alright, welcome to another episode, everyone. What we're doing today is replacing the front struts on this Subaru Forester. Now in this case, this will be a how-to on how to remove the front struts. I'm not going to show on how to reinstall the new strut, just because in this case we're swapping out the stock unit for a WRX suspension. And I'm going to have a separate video altogether. But I'm sure there's some of you out there that are looking just to swap out your stock unit and reinstall an OEM part. So in this case, I'll show on how to remove the strut and then just go ahead and do the exact opposite when you reinstall the strut. But if you do get a little bit confused, just look under my page or visit my site and click under suspension, and I show on how to reinstall the new strut. It'll just be a little bit different because it's a WRX suspension. But that being said, let's go ahead and let's begin. Alright, so first step is we need to remove these lug nuts. And now if you don't have an impact wrench, you don't have a cordless type of tool to remove these lug nuts, get the lug nut wrench that comes with the vehicle, place it over the lug nut, get yourself a piece of pipe. I got this from Home Depot. Place it over the lug nut wrench. This gives you a lot more leverage, and there you go. Now if you do this without this pipe, let me show you, you need a lot more force and you're going to hurt your hands on top of it. So make sure you get yourself a pipe, because you'll save your arms, you'll save your hands, and you'll save your back. Okay, so first step, what we're going to do is remove these two bottom bolts. Now again, if you don't have an impact gun, you can use one of these breaker bars. These are also called cheater bars. Now in this case, you can use either an 18mm or a 3/4 inch socket. So just place the socket over the end there. I'll use a breaker bar. This happens to be a 1/2 inch breaker bar. And then for good measure, also get yourself a wrench, because you want to keep the opposite side of this bolt from moving. So just to loosen it up, again, get yourself a breaker bar. These things are a lifesaver. You can often pick them up at Harbor Freight. I mean, maybe $15 or so. They really are not that bad. Then once these bolts are loose enough, you can use a ratchet. And in the meantime, I'm just going to keep one of these bolts in the strut, and I'll show you why in a little bit. In the meantime, we'll remove the bottom one here. Now, if your bolts happen to be really stubborn, spray them first with PB Blaster or WD-40 and let it sit for maybe 5 minutes or so, and that will help you out. Okay. Now what you also want to check is sometimes you have brake lines, ABS sensors, and so forth attached to the strut. So this happens to be a 12mm. Just remove the bolt like so. Okay. Then also we have the brake line right here. Now this is held on by a clip, and as you can see, it grabs around this fitting. So what you want to do is get yourself a flathead and just pry it up like so. And with my thumb, my left thumb here, I'll press down and out. And it can be a little difficult, but just wiggle it, and there you go. So now everything is free and clear. So now we can remove the strut. But before we do that, we have a couple of bolts on top. All right, so what we need to do up here is we have 3 top mounts. Now these can be rather tight sometimes, especially if they've been sitting here for 10 plus years. So what you can do is get yourself the socket, get yourself the ratchet, and then I'm using an extension. Just place, this happens to be a 17mm socket, I'm placing the end over the ratchet, and then I'm using an extension. And this gives you a lot more leverage to loosen up these bolts. This is something nice to do just because when you try to do this without an extension, if you do it like so, sometimes you have to place a lot of stress on your palm and you don't want to do that. And that's really about it, guys. So what you want to do is remove these top 3 mounts, these top 3 bolts, and then we'll swap the strut right from the vehicle. And then just remove the strut from the vehicle.